Good evening. Tonight we have Anisa Liban. Our broadcast community engagement program is based on focusing of the community for many, many years. So one of the platforms we use to bring young people, the community who have done many, many amazing jobs to enforce them, to share the community. Also, large diversity. So we have tonight Anisa Liban, who is actually current vice president of Westerville City School. Anisa, welcome community engagement to Prohan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here and to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Anissa. Anissa actually have done. I have known for many, many, many years since in high school. Is one of those young people who actually mentored them to be able to help the community. So she always used to be coming to events that we do. Also helping the young generation. You know, even my kids. I remember she used to guide young people to be present while she was also high state university students, advocating a lot of drought in Africa. Many people don't remember that, but I remember specifically she was champion for the drought and advocating and telling the community about what's happening in Africa, drought, and how people engaged. And she was inspired by young people. So I have known she have done many many things our city, state, and local, and I'm very proud of her. You know how she's actually able to model that what the community needs. A lot of generation need the model we needed. That's what we wanted to help young people to lift and give the torture. They could be the leaders for tomorrow. Also, Anissa is a mother now, had a baby in the district as well, which is congratulations. But I want to make sure that Anissa, could you talk about your background a little bit about more?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you so much. And honestly, as you said, I am a young person. I grew up here in Central Ohio, and I currently serve as the vice president of the Westerville City Schools district. Many people may not know, but Westerville is a suburban school district. However, it is one of the largest districts in the state of Ohio. We are ranked the 11th in terms of size, meaning we have almost 15,000 kids in our district. Um, and so I've had the honor of serving and being a leader for just 1 year, and I am currently running to keep my seat. But prior to joining the board, as Burhan mentioned, I came to the board with a lot of experience. I was appointed, meaning that I wasn't elected into the seat. My journey to the school board was one where four current elected officials had decided that based on my qualifications and my lived experiences, that I brought a very special, unique set of skills, excuse me, as well as a background. But I am truly a Columbus raised young woman. I'm a proud product of public schools. I am currently a mom. I live in Delaware County on the northern end of the district with my husband, Hood. And I am a proud Somali American. I mean, I grew up here my entire life, and as Burhan mentioned, really, when I look back into my teenage years, I was always deeply involved in advocacy. I actually started engagement outreach just at the age of 17, 16 in high school. I was really moved by the lives that were lost due to the devastating 2012 famine in Somalia. And from that time up until 2016, I was known for Horn of Hope, a nonprofit initiative that I started with my really good friend Yasmin. And really from there, it was history. I knew from that young age that I really wanted to get into the nonprofit space, that I wanted to give back to this community that has given so much to me. And so that's a little, bit about me. I went to school for public affairs and had post graduation went on to serve in the Ohio Senate to support as a legislative aide at the Ohio Senate, and was the first young Somali woman to do that. And then after that, I continued working in government, serving and supporting Columbus City Council member, Shayla Favor. And so as this first Somali woman to have that role at City Council. And so local government is really where my heart is. And now being a parent, I know just how impactful good policies can have on lives, and vice versa, what bad policies can have on our kids. And I don't want that for my kid or any other kid in this district.
You know, thank you, Anissa, because in a lot of people really we have a lot of immigrants in the state and the city whether it be Westerville, whether it be Hilliard or New Albany. Actually, it's a growing population in this in Central Ohio. I see, Anissa, you see a lot of young people, diverse in the district. So when they see you, how they see you, like for example, the young people who graduated, I know you were given a first time
Yeah.
handing a certificate
I
for high
think
school.
my journey again this last year on the school board really has almost, in anthropology, they say it's like a cultural shock. And I think that's what it was, not just for me, but I think even for my colleagues. I think just the amount of people that are so happy, not just the students, but the educators and the parents themselves are like, it's so nice to see ourselves in you. So the representation piece is just so, so important. Um, and I'll use that example. I had the opportunity to distribute diplomas this past fall, or excuse me, spring. And mashallah, alhamdulillah, I was able to, shake the hands and congratulate so many kids, even just from my community, from the Somali community, and even the kids who were just Black and kids who were Asian and Latino, and just seeing their eyes like bright up and just light up and say, I mean, that was just everything for me. I do think representation matters. And I think that as the only woman of color, as the only person of color, Black woman on the school board currently, I have a really big responsibility being a voice for so many diverse communities in our district. And I'm proud to say that I am a champion, not just for the African immigrant community, but for our Latino community. I'm always thinking about ways to improve their experience in our district. And so I think most people, their initial reaction is just gratitude and just, wow, this is amazing. We never thought that we would see this in Westerville.
Wow. I do remember many, many years ago, I used to work with the Franklin County Department of Education. I used to travel a lot of different schools to educate about the teachers, how to engage the families and the communities and the struggle. We see that. But the gap, achievement, the gap in your district, especially we have a lot of immigrants, a lot of new family members, people are moving in there and have a lot of gaps. What you see so far, the gaps?
There are different educational gaps. I would say, I think every child is different. And that's something that you will hear when you're in this education space. And that is honestly so true. It rings true. I think, there are, I would say, some of the biggest barriers that I've seen in the short time that I've been on the board. Um, a lot of times it really is language. It's language barriers. A lot of families are still in need of interpretation. They are overwhelmed with the amount of digital apps that, just it's 2025. Schools are trying to, adapt to all of these technological changes. And parents are forced to kind of keep up with that. And when you have someone with a language barrier, and they were already struggling to keep up with the email communication, and now you're asking them to juggle 5 6 different apps, that's so overwhelming, and then without an interpreter as well. So that digital slash language piece is a big barrier. But then I would also say that there are a lot of families that need very basic assistance, whether it's filling out forms, whether it is getting to important events, even getting to board meetings. Like transportation is a huge barrier. Even in our district, we are a multi-high school district, meaning kids have and we also allow kids have the choice to go to different schools outside of their home school that they would have initially been assigned. And so some of the families that I do meet with, they do, mention the transportation piece. And currently, not to get off track, but, our district right now, we have a very important ballot issue that's on the ballot, an earned income tax ballot measure. And if it fails in just a week, exactly a week from today, we are potentially looking at cutting transportation. And that'll have a huge, huge impact on those high school seniors and other students in high school. And so that is already a challenge for some families. And if we end up having to completely gut the transportation system or part of it for a certain level in the education system, that'll only exacerbate the issue that already exists. And so there are a lot of different barriers. You have kids with different IEP needs. You have kids with different special needs, which is a huge, huge and sensitive issue in my own community right now. And so I think there's no short list of issues that I could go into detail about, but I think language is one that is personal for me, and remains to be an area of improvement and communication as well.
Yeah, I do know that is something that navigation and also is very hard for everybody navigating new system, new technology. But also, we do know there is a digital gap that exists, across Central Ohio. A lot of people barriers they have. Uh, how will you ensure translation, interpretation service, flexible meeting times, patterns, liaise for families with limited time or limited English proficiency? Because we know that large population that will have that gap in district.
That's such a great question. I'm glad you asked that. This summer, I actually rolled out what I am calling Around the Table with Anisa Liban. It's a listening session. And that was just the first of many, inshallah, to come. And really, my goal behind that was to go and connect with different stakeholder groups. So the first meeting was with families, with parents specifically. And I had the opportunity to get feedback from them, hear about their experiences in the district. And I took my notes and I took that feedback. I really sat with it to figure out, what type of policies can I put forward that will really that will make this family or this child's experience better, learning experience better. So that's one way that I'm addressing that. Another way is having one-on-one dialogue anywhere that I'm at, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's participating in an online opportunity like we are right now on live, whether it is attending a forum, whether it is going to a club, or there are so many different hot spots in the district. It's a huge, huge district, whether you're, on the southern end or where I live, or you're somewhere in between. There are so many different groups that have different issues, and I'm always trying to meet people where they're at. And I literally mean that. So that's one way. But I think to just get to what you were asking, I think, and I think for me, it's like we have a really huge school district and it really is so diverse. And sometimes what is priority number one for me may not be priority number one for somebody else, or may not be the most important thing to one family, but it may be very important to 10 families. And so I always try to balance, how do I prioritize certain issues that are being brought to my attention while also thinking big picture. Because a lot of times the vulnerable communities that I really want to advocate for, just a small percentage of the overall population, but I also recognize that they may have the greatest needs. And so the good news is we have a phenomenal, this is a really, really great district. They're already doing such great work. And really, I see my role as enhancing the good work that they're already doing, and really being a voice for those families that may have had a not so pleasant experience, and educating them on how to work through that process. As a school board member, my role is to really support the district leaders. It's my job to help make decisions on finances and spending, but also to be a voice for parents. And so there's always a different issue, an email that I'm getting on a different topic, and I just have to be ready to juggle and answer and help address different things.
Wow, it's it's a large district, and it's a big district that has a lot of diversity. Really needs a lot. Another question was discipline gaps often affect the Black and multilingual students. Um, how will you reduce disparities while maintaining safety? Because there's a lot of issues that a lot of suburban schools have, gaps that a lot of Black and multi students face. Like discipline is a lot of time
Yeah.
advocating, navigating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the safety piece is something that I talk about. I'm actually running on 3 different platforms, and the one that's most important, they're all important, but one that is really personal to me is fostering safe and inclusive learning environments for all students. And when I say safe, I don't mean just in the physical sense, but I mean in terms of mental health, making sure that kids also just have that confidence to, you know, be who they are and show up in the building authentically, and not face being judged or, you know, students of colors. I mean, research across the United States is showing that, you know, unfortunately, students of color, for example, usually are disciplined at greater rates than their counterparts. And that, you know, that's statistics that cannot be, you can't debate that. Like, that is facts. There is evidence to support that in a lot of research, again, across the country. And for example, you know, a district like ours, we have school resource officers in our buildings, which is amazing. We know that our kids are going to be safe. However, something that does come up when I'm on the ground, or at least did in the very beginning, was, you know, how are we ensuring that our kids feel safe in buildings? We know that right now at the federal level, there are a lot of families who are multilingual or have a very diverse background, and their engagement with police may be something that they are genuinely fearful of. Right now, there's a real threat of ICE going into school buildings, not just in our district, but across Ohio. And so I'm always thinking about, how do we keep our kids safe? How can we review policy that may already exist that legitimately keeps our kids safe? But what can we do to make sure that the parents understand what that process is? And if there's an opportunity to improve the existing process, what does that look like? And for me, that's always twofold. The first is making sure that I'm having great in-depth conversations with district leaders so that I also educate myself, because I've only been here for a year. There's going to be a lot of things that I learn, right? But then the other
Yeah.
part is making sure that I'm connecting with advocates and different organizations on the ground that are specialized in these various topics, right? And I'm proud to say that I've done that numerous times in just a short year that I've been on the board. It's really important to me that I'm connecting with different advocacy organizations to say, hey, I kind of want to do this, but what are your thoughts? And usually how it goes is that organization will say really great intentions, but that might actually put too much of a spotlight on us, and we don't want that. Or sometimes they may say something along the lines of really great idea, but we would like to work on a letter or coach you through this, or let's do research to see what other districts may be doing. And so it's a partnership is essentially what I'm trying to say. And so safety is really important to me. I want to make sure that I'm hearing from the parents, the educators, the district leaders that know what needs to be done. And then sometimes if I'm lucky enough, I want to connect with the students to kind of see, well, you're the one that's being impacted by this. What do you think? And how do you feel about this? So I'm a very hands-on board member. I attend as many meetings as I can in the buildings, because I think having that experience is so important to making decisions.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's really needed. Another thing is I want to talk about the teacher and support staffing, you know, really reflect in the district as well. What will you do recruit, retain great teachers, especially in hard to staff schools and special education? Because a lot of schools, sometimes you look at it's not matching, you know, the school students that attend in school, but mainly in the teachers' perspective. Sometimes a lot of diverse teachers being recruited. So,
Yeah.
what's your mind on
Yeah,
that
I
question?
think I think to answer that question, as again, it's always important to know like what is the actual role of a school board member. So in terms of like retaining and keeping staff in the district, I think for me it's always important for me to check in with the directors that oversee those departments. So whether it's HR, making sure that I'm regularly in contact with anyone in the superintendent's cabinet that may oversee hiring and trainings and all of that. I think that the more that I can educate myself on the process, that's a win for everybody. And also just connecting with my colleagues as well. I think that I'm always curious to see what training opportunities are available to support our students. We offer all sorts of trainings to our to educators currently, and I know that educators have various different resources available to them through their union, through the district directly, et cetera. And I'm always making sure that I am walking that fine line between how do I keep myself constantly informed about what educators are facing, and then what's our actual financial capacity to support those needs. I think Westerville right now, again, we do have a very important issue on the ballot. However, if that fails, we have been having very honest and transparent conversations about potential cuts, and that might also impact the hiring or keeping seasoned educators, right? Anyone and everyone is really going to feel this levy if it fails. I don't want to see that, but to really answer your question, Aded, I think I'm just really trying to think through. There's no good way
Yeah.
to really answer that, because
Yeah.
as a school board member, all I really can do is stay engaged with our educators, make sure that district leaders are providing me and my colleagues with up-to-date information. And then again, connecting with the union reps that represent our teachers and are a voice for them, so that if there is something going on that is not really helping their teaching experience, I know how to best make an informed decision.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the levy. We know that there's a lot of cut in state cut by school districts. So how if this levy, is a very important to the Westerville school districts, especially families and everybody, because they'll have consequence if they lost. There's going to be a lot of resources being cut off, a lot of kids being behind transportation resource. Um, so. So how did you really overcome folks who said it's going to be high tax? For example, I had people say, "Oh, my tax will be increased
Yeah,
percentage," like
I
that.
think something that I've been leaning on are really just educational conversations. I'll give you an example. A lot of times people don't really understand the history of the district. The last time we passed a levy was 8 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
That's a very long time, or excuse me, 6 years ago, very, very long time to go without a levy passing. We tried to do something last year. It was unfortunately unsuccessful, but the voters made their voices heard at that time, and that's what the public decided. And we really did our best to maintain the services that we currently have. However, I made the decision along with my colleagues to put forward an earned income tax issue,
Hmm.
because the property taxes were being felt by families, and we didn't want to be the reason why someone is, priced out of their home and are no longer able to afford their home because the property taxes are too high. So how we came to the earned income tax conversation, having constant conversations about what does it mean to see an increase in your taxes, for me, it just boils down to, hey, this system, the funding system for the state is broken for public schools. And that isn't something that I decided. It's not something my colleagues decided or our district. The Supreme Court literally ruled numerous times that the school funding formula is broken in Ohio. They've deemed it as unconstitutional. However, despite that, our current lawmakers have not done anything to address it. They haven't put forward a formula that works. And what's happening there is each year, school districts like ours and even, I guess, like more of an unfortunate, I don't even know what to say. Like, there are school districts
Yeah.
that are doing worse than us,
Well, yeah.
for
Hmm.
lack of better words.
Hmm.
And they are really, really feeling this. And so something needs to change. And so for us, we put our heads together. Our incredible treasurer, did her research. And ultimately we decided an earned income tax makes the most sense for our district because of the different types of housing in our district. And even with this proposed earned income tax measure, there are exemptions. So if you are a senior and you are retired, or you earn social security incomes, there's so many different exemptions there. But again, to get to your question, I'm just reminding people this is a shared responsibility between the state and the community. And the community, time and time again, we step up, we get things passed. But then it gets to a point where if the community every year is stepping up and our taxes are, people are feeling that financially, and the state is saying, you're on your own, it gets to a point where people, and they have every right to be frustrated. But my response is, well, don't be frustrated with the children.
Yeah.
I think every child deserves access to quality education, and our schools have to be funded. There's no other alternative, And we are
Yeah.
fighting, we are advocating. I'm advocating. I advocated this entire year. I pled with lawmakers. I submitted my testimony. I did my best to educate them on what it would mean to have a huge cut, and how that would impact our district. And so, unfortunately, everything that was asked for was not provided. And so that advocacy continues. It has not stopped. But right now, so that we can stay above water, we are going back to voters to see if they will help us maintain the services. So we're not doing anything new. We're not asking for money to build a fancy stadium or, use money recklessly. What these dollars are going to do is just maintain services, maintain, staff that are, to what you were discussing earlier, helping vulnerable students, helping kids do the things that bring them joy, whether it's music class or playing a sport. I mean, these are things that kids have the right, I believe, should have the right to be offered if they're going to a public school.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, the child education is the key for in the future generation. And I do know, remember, you provided testimony, Senate Education Committee. I remember that you testifying the consequence will have an impact it will have. I remember how you really stood up your district, showing them, the cut will how the cut will be impact for vulnerable students across the Westerville City School, which is really was amazing. For the to see that presentation itself was phenomenal. I want to say thank you for doing that because all day today is a vulnerable students that across the Western city schools.
Yeah, and to that note, I also just want to say, and I'm speaking for myself, I am serving on this board to genuinely be a voice for all students. And I know a lot of this interview so far, I've talked about some of the barriers that our vulnerable student populations face. And I've provided some examples around their needs, but my entire platform is being a voice for all students, because
Mhm.
it isn't just the vulnerable kids that need help. I mean, even our high performing kids deserve,
Mhm.
deserve everything that they need to be successful, whether it's college readiness, whether it is, hey, I want to go into the military and I want to, don't know what that path looks like, whether it's students needing additional help to apply for college. All of our kids deserve support. And this is essentially what this funding would guarantee.
I really like about you really putting the students first. That's the key. Regardless of the income wise, the students are students, regardless of the income they're coming, and fair and supportive learning environment, which is the key for success for the next generation. Uh, I want to emphasize you what you're gonna tell people who actually watching today or seeing you. What you're gonna tell them. What's the feel? Residents who actually going to watch, pretty much most of them, they're going to watch what you message.
My message for those viewing who do reside in our district and are able to vote this fall is to really vote and support leaders who have demonstrated that they advocate for the district, not just when it matters, but when it doesn't matter. One thing I can say about myself is that I genuinely care about every child in this district. My child isn't even in the district yet, and I'm doing this work, right? Because I genuinely care, and I have my child's going to be in the district, inshallah, and I being a young parent, I am always thinking about the future of this district and the experience that parents will have. And so it's really important to me that our district remains great and that our kids, that I could be a strong voice for families. Because one thing that I do believe is that the first experience a family has in the district really shapes um, their entire journey. And so I want to continue to be a positive role model. I want to continue to be a voice that shows up. I'm easily accessible. And so I would ask viewers to, support the work that we are doing when we do advocate and we ask for assistance at the State House, when we have board meetings and we need members of the public to attend and provide feedback. I ask that viewers, strongly consider doing that, because I'm just one piece of the puzzle that impacts a kid's life. And so it requires everyone working together. And so I would just ask that folks remain engaged even beyond election, because we've got a lot, we've got a lot ahead of us. And so I'm just really looking forward to hopefully returning and keeping my seats and passing policies that have positive impacts on our kids.
That will be what really, really a clear message, and it's and everybody who's watching, we're going to switch in Somali few message in Somali, but final will be the please vote. Early vote is open now until November 4th. Please, we need this young lady who actually will be the champion for the next generation of young people in Central Ohio. We need her. She is somebody who actually have done so much in our district in the state and locally, and she'll be the voice, for somebody who actually have done so much on. We appreciate Anisa for. We hope the seat, and also we want to be the first young lady, Muslim young lady, to be elected on that seat. This will be a representation for a lot of generation who will be seen as a model for her and everybody, minority kids, whatever you reach, poor. We need that to make sure that we all have access to education. Anissa, what's your message for folks who actually go and voting right now?
Yes. So my message for folks that are currently voting is to really take into consideration not just my word, but I am proud to have been endorsed by more than a dozen organizations, including our Westerville Education Association, including our Young Democrats, including two county political, parties, Democratic parties. And Vote Mama, a national organization by Matriots, another organization really focused on supporting women seeking public office, and just so many other organizations, including a few nonprofits. And so, I'm someone, and individuals, excuse me, in the community. And I think something that I'm proud of is just how engaged I was even prior to joining on the board, but when I did join the board, how I continued these partnerships and really pulled in different leaders across the district to help kids. And so I would ask voters to make sure that they are continue to be civically engaged and that they are also doing their research on all candidates so that they are making the best decision for our kids. And that hopefully folks support issue 39. And if you live in Delaware County like me, that you are supporting the earned income tax issue in Westerville.
Thank you, Anissa, for please vote, and please make sure we have a young person. Please go and vote. If you live in Westerville City School area and listen, please make sure, or Delaware, please make sure you lift it. We're going to switch Somali. إن شاء الله صور دوادة فلان برهان أحمد وايه سأقول صعوتان مدن أنا كوميونتي لا شقينا last 8 years كوميونتي لا شقينا أي wax badan oo community-ga baahiyooyin badan oo dhibaatooyin badan kasoo shaqeeyey everyday maalin kasta aan ka shaqeyno waxaan idiin sheegayaa Anisa Liban waa qof muhiim u ah waxtarka gobolka iyo magaalada iyo dadka Soomaalida meel kasta ay joogaan waa gabar yar runtii annaga aan soo gacan qaban la soo shaqeynay soo lifti garaynay gabdhahayga xataa la shaqeyn jirtay waagay yaraayeen ay gabdhaha yar waxu noqon jirtay mentor marka waa somebody oo actually aniga aan aqaano for last 20 years gabar yar oo maasha Allah hooyo ahna hadda runtii waa qofka ugu horeeya waxay noqon doontaa muslim ah oo laga doorto state of Ohio oo xafiis fadhiya school board xafiiskan waa ka muhiimsan yahay xafiisa badan ilaa iyo dhowr kun oo ciyaalo ayaa aada iskoolkaas Westerville City School marka waxaan rabnaa hadda ayadaa fadhisa vice president ka ah last year la appoint gareeyay election ay ku jirtaa hadda marka waxaan rabnaa dadka inaan u sheegno fadlan inaa u codeysaan gabadhan yarta ah oo ay soo baxdo si ay dad badan oo yaryar oo badan berito community ay u istaagaan ay u noqdaan horumar waxaan anaga ka shaqeynaa waxay tahay dadka yar inay beri noqdaan model dadka yar badbaadiya gabadhan waxaan ogahay waxyaalo badan oo fara badan ay community u qabatay ilaa high school ilaa college jaamacadda dhiganaysa anaa waddansan ka ahaa waxyaalo badan oo xataa kasoo shaqeynay qayb bay ka ahayd oo ay ka mid tahay Somali independence aan samayn jirnay African days aan ka samayn jirnay maxaa la dhahaa City of Columbus diversity in la bedelo dadka Soomaalida inay noqdaan face inay noqdaan waa qof yar oo runtii advocate u samaysay baahida community-ga meel walba ay joogaan hadday Westerville deganaayeen iyo hadday Columbus deganaayeen iyo hadday Westside deganaayeen iyo Eastside deganaayeen qof waxay ahayd dadka u shaqeynaysa marka waxaan rabnaa dadkan yar oo dadka u shaqeynaya inaan annagana aan garab istaagno oon caawinno oo aan geyno si ay dadka u badbaadiyaan anis waa gabar yar oo hadda fadhisa kursigaanay fadhisaa kursigaana muhiim wuxuu u yahay Soomaalida ciyaal fara badan oo Soomaaliya aada marka waxaan rabnaa inaa ogaataan dadka degan Ohio khaasatan Westerville City Schools fadlan waa la codeynayaa inaa codkiina siisaan oo runtii u istaagtaan oo garab istaagtaan dadka yar anaga rabnaa mustaqbalka inay istaagaan oo ay badbaadiyaan kuraasa badan ay jirto meel walba furan marka waxaan rabnaa kursigan gabadhan yartaa fadhisa in lagu taageero lagu riixo oo joogto ay si macnaha generation dambe ay macnaha ay u badbaadaan waa hooyo qof walba Soomaali wuxuu helay qof Soomaali la hadlo waa gabar yar oo xijaaban qof walba la hadli karaa qof walba wax weydiin kara waana qof yar oo mustaqbalkeeda u jeedaan hooyo ah ilmo yar ku korinaysa meesha dad badan oo Soomaaliyan waxay u tahay inday u noqonaysaa marka waxaan rabnaa inaad la istaagtaan dadka yar inaad taageertaan muhiim waaye dadka yar in loo istaago oo la taageero generationkeena hadda waa arkaysaan gaabaa nagu dhacay gaabka hadda yar oo soo baxay waa massively waa dad yar oo laakiin u baahan in la riixo wax loo qabto oo la riixo marka waxaan rabnaa dadka waaweyn inay ka baxaan dadkan yar ay riixaan oo experience daa leedahay aqoontaada iyo cilmigaaga iyo lacagtaada ku taageersid oo aad ku riixdid si ay berito jiilkaan dambe u badbaadiyaan marka waxaan ka codsanayaa fadlan vote for Anisa Liban for Westerville City Schools Aniso maxaad ku darsanaysaa
My other aad baad umahadsantahay horta ana ka qayb gala this interview it's really important it's always great when I see community again or civically engaged and so aad baad umahadsantahay kursiga marka la magacaabay kursiga aan insha Allah aan ku fadhiyay something that was really important to me was dadka inaan baro school board member waxay qabtaan shaqadood waxay tahay because runtii marka la dhaho qof u coday usually waxa la ka karaa adiga xafiisa oo ama magaalada ama adiga gobolka Ohio ama Congress ama madaxweyne it doesn't matter lakin a lot of times dadka ma yaqaanaan xataa inaa lagu codayn karo waxbarashada and so waa position that is elected anigana waxaan hadda ahay maasha Allah not just kursiga bas ma ku fadhiyay waxaan ahay madaxweynaha ku xigeenka for school district oo aad u weyn hadda waxaan leenahay 3,000 ilmo almost oo hadda districtka dhigtaan ee kasii badan oo ka qalin jabiyaan iskoolaha alxamdulillah so community-geena aniga cod u ahay week ka bacdina waxaan rajaynayaa community-ga inay garab istaagaan ee cod ii dhibaan siday codkina ga farax bixin runtii haddaan nii sheegay hadda 5 magaco baa ku arkayaa ballotka 5taas magacoona qof Soomaali ah kursiga ku fadhiya ani bas ba ah qof Soomaali ah la endorse garayna ani ah and so it's really important as a community dadka inay ka fakaraan yaa magaaladan ku badan community-geena meesha ma ku badno hadda dadka hadda lana tartamayaan waa same dad oo aniga imaageen oo dhaheen gabadhan maxay qabtaa waddankaada ku laabo oo the first maalin oo meesha meetingka aa la ii keenay aa la igu booday waaye oo newskana ay ka sheegeen so you know that's the reality and so aniga sababtaan u ordaya it's of course ilmaheena sidaan u caawina waalidna codan u noqdo already so many reero hadda waan caawiya oo hadda Westerville reero ah lakin even beyond Westerville, Columbus, Dublin, Hilliard there are so many families on mashallah aan caawiya hadda wiigan xataa reer baan caawiya all the way in Grove City because no one ma hayaan qof oo hadda kursigan camal ku fadhiya anigana waxaan sameeya macallimiinta iyo waalidka markay isfahmi waayeen dadka waan isku keenaa policygaan fiirinaa and that is something that other place garan karin it's very very valuable so aniga waxaan ku dhiri lahaa codkan it is the most important vote at samayn karna as dad Mareykanka degan as dad Muslim as a Muslim community because waxaan ilmaheeni faa'iidaystaa waxbarashadan aniga meesha ma ku koray waxbarashadana waan ka faa'iidaystay waxaan rajaynayaana ilmaheenan inay waxbarashadan inay ka faa'iidaystaan insha Allah and so codkana winaga fara baxe that is a reality meel oo laba dad aa loo codayn karo unrealistic way waxaas waaba impossible waxaas laakiin qof walba xaq bay ku leeyihiin it is everybody's right to vote for any candidate that they want laakiin waxaan dhahay aniga because kursiga waan ku fadhiyaa because mashallah shaqo fiican waan qabtay and because dadka hadda tartamayaan waan dad aan la shaqeeyo ayagana inaan garab istaaga waaye sama ahana siday aniga ay garab istaageen so meesha si fiican aan ka muuqanaan rabnaa and I think it's something that's very simple ala fahmi karo lakin there is a lot of misinformation at the community ka socdo and so I just want to be very straightforward kursiga ana hatta meesha ku fadhiyo masha Allah position hatta hal sana ka yar ani meel aan joogo baa laga dhigay madaxweynaha ku xigeenka and that's because aad baan u dadaalay reer badan baan caawiyay waxaasna way arkeen and maxay isdhaheen you know qofkan leader baan ka dhigaynaa because qofkan shaqada way qabanee and so qof oo nii shaqeeya u codeeya qof oo ilmihiina ka fakara qof oo hooyo ah oo just like your kid oo u dagaalayso garab istaaga u codeeya insha Allah and so aniga meesha ma koray so af Soomaaligaygana you know ma fiicno lakin it really doesn't matter reer adaan la jooga ayagana mashallah interpreter baan u keenaa ama gabdho Soomaali iyo oo iskoolaha ka shaqeeyaan mar walba shirka way ka qayb galaan because my goal is reerahena inay experience fiican inay hayaan and there's so many families mashallah oo hadda ilmo fiican leh oo scholarships heleen oo top colleges Mareykanka oo hadda laga aqbalay oo aadaan and then there are families oo ilmahood IEP lah ama cunug xanuunsan lah oo ayagana oo they have other kids and it's just too much and so those maamoyin in aabahaas oo shaqeeyaan yaa caawinaya so hadda kursiga waan ku fadhiyaa shaqo fiican waan qabtay inaan sii wadaan rabaa so insha Allah week kabacdi anay ii codeeya siday top 3 votes ka anu helo because haddana magaalada anaka meesha ma ku badno waana laba county and they because minority baan ahnay anaka iyo waa saddex dad oo community-geena ahayn oo ala garab istaagaya la caawinaya xisaabta waxay noqonaysaa ama aniga meesha waan soo laabanaya ama meesha waan ka baxayaa meesha tan ka baxana hal qof Soomaali ah ma haysanayna oo ilmaheena cod u noqdo so if that's what you want then vote sidaad u rabtid like if you want to make sure that community-geena representation inay hayaan no matter what insha Allah iyo codeeya adeer
mashallah
for you to summarize what I said so that it's easy to understand because I feel like wax badan baan sheegay but if you can kind of synthesize waxaan dhahay I would really appreciate it
mashallah Anisa runtii waa qofta ujeedaan runtii Soomaaligeedana uu fiican yahay waxa ay ka sheegaysana wax run waaye waxay idin leedahay aniga meesha idin jooga dad badan oo Soomaali ah baan caawiyay oo ka shaqeeyay meesha ka meel kastana kaliya Westerville group board dad ka caawisay Dublin bay dad ka caawisay Columbus ka caawisay baahidan waa ujeedaan meel kastay taala mid kale xoog waxay gelinaysaa waxay tahay kursigan ay ku joogtaa hadda waxa loo dhaariyay last year loo dhaariyay waxay joogtay last year ay joogtay marka haddana kursi inay ceshto waaye kuraastaanna saddexda qof ee ugu horeysaa soo baxaysa kuraastaan hadda Westerville saddex dadka fadhiyana dadkii hore u jooga ayada ka mid taha fadhiya she is one of the ayada macnaheedu waxa waa ayada hore u joogtay ayadaa fadhisa laba dadka la joogana waa dad kale kursigooda ceshanaya waay dadkii hore u joogay baa kuraastooda raba inay ceshtaan marka dadka kuraasta ugu badan saddexda qof ee ugu cod badanaa soo bixi doonto oo kuraastaan hesha macnaheeda marka anagana muhiim waxaa noo maadaama ay gabar Soomaaliya already meesha ay fadhiso kursigana ay joogto oo kursigana ay joogto already inaan anaga xoogeena aan gelino inay sii joogto because aa ula socotaan waxay tiri Westerville iyo Delaware waa laba county oo labadaba districtgooda borderkooda Westerville City School ay aadaan waa wada cadaanana meesha degan waxay kaloo idiin sheegtay maalintii aan meesha imaanayay oo la dhaaranayay waxay tiri anigu waxaan fiirsanayay maxaa la dhahaa waxa la yidhaahdo messageda dadka qoraan gaalada ay qoraan muhiim waa inaa fiirsaan waxa ay ku hadlaayeen waxa ay ka sheegayeen gabadha yarta xijaabiga ah iyo waxay ku hadlaayeen waa yaabaysaan macnaha waxay ku tusinaysaa macnaha cabsida ay muuqaalka ahaan xataa naga aaminsan naga qabaan dadkan haddaan naftigeena educate garaynin kuraastaana xaafadan markaan fiirno percentkii aan fiirno waa xaafad laba xaafadood oo caddaan ay degan yihiin waayo Delaware iyo Westerville anigu muddan ka shaqaynayay waa mainly waa xaafado ay caddaan badan degan yihiin nambarkeenanu wuu number yar ku noqonaya marka la fiiriyo mamaysaan marka waxaan rabnaa inay dadka ogaataan muhiimaddu inay tahay in gabadhan qofka kaliya madowga meesha fadhisa waa hadda oo president ka ah vice president ka tahay waxaana loogu doortay dadaa kaga soo horreeyay meesha joogan waxaa loogu doortay waxqabadkeeda iyo sida dadka ula shaqaynaysaa loo geeyay meesha macnaha saa ula socotaan vice president waxaa laga dhigaa experience waxaa la fiiriyaa yaa wax soo qabtay yaa soo shaqeeyey yaa wax qaban kara iyo qof waxaa loo geeyey oo vice president looga dhigay waxqabadkeeda ay arkeen inay badan caawinayso districtiga badan ay ka caawisay baahi badan ay dabooleyso dadka ay wax weydiinayso dadka ay macnaha la shaqaynayso waa runtii wax aad inaan ku faraxna ay tahay haddaan nahay dad Soomaaliyeed oo meesha degan inaan ku faraxno gabadhan yarta ah inay noo joogto meesha oon ku riixno because aa ula socotaan caddaanka meesha jooga ama la tartamayo waa dad caddaana oo meesha laga yaqaano majorityna ayaa ka ah meesha wax qarsoon ma jiro ayagaa majority ka caddaana meesha majority ka ah mamaysaa madowga marka la fiiriyo waa number aad iyo aad u yar marka waxaan rabnaa dadka Soomaalida ah inay ogaadaan kursigan muhiimaddu noo leeyahay muhiimadda noo leeyahay waxa waaye Anisa Liban waa the vice president hadday joogtaa kursigay fadhisay la appoint gareeyay haddayna ku jirtaa dadka la tartamaayo oo caddaanka oo hadda ayada meesha kula jiro waa dadkay meeshooda joogeen oo ayagana kuraastooda ceshanaya xataa kursigooda ceshanayaan marka gabadhan inaan xoogeena gelino oo communityga meesha jooga ay ogaadaan ay madaxooda ay furaan muhiim waaye inaan ka ilaalino dadka yar inaan xoog gelino saa ula socotaan magaaladan
and I just want to add hal qof waa sidaad sheegtay madaxweynaha ayadana way tartamaysaa waana qofka booska aniga gelisay ayada iyo dadkan hadda la shaqeyno hal kursi baa hadda meesha kale baa u tartamaysa saddex kursi baa u banaynayaa baa u tartamayaa hadda ninka aan la shaqeeyo asaga hadda tartanka almost a few months ago buu tartanka ka baxay laakiin qofka hadda la taageeray xisbiga dimuqraadiga iyo macallimiinta iskoolaha oo dhan ay taageereen waa islaan oo business owner ah oo ayadana oo magaalada lagu yaqaano oo iskoolahana aad u caawisay so ayadana xoog waa la caawinayaa ayadana so sidaad sheegtay waa saddex caddaan la yaqaano la caawinayo iyo aniga alxamdulillah anigana waa la caawinayaa so meesha dadka kasoo baxaya ama waxay noqonaysaa madaxweynaha soo laabanaysa anigana insha Allah waan soo laabanayaa and then qof caddaan baa meesha haddana soo laabanayo ama waxay noqonaysaa caddaan dhan baa la dooranayaa and then meeshana waan ka baxnay
waa sax waa say Anisa sheegtay waa muhiim waa say idin sheegtay macnaha dadku inay fahmaan waxa waaye dadkaan meesha joogto annaga vulnerable ma nahay inaan helaynaa laga yaabaa oo kuraastaan aan weynaba macnaheeda hadda aanan xoogeena iyo energygeena aanan gelin inaan kursiga ceshano oo dadka xata kale aan la shaqaynin si gabadhaana u geyno
I'm sorry, can you talk a little bit about the power and the importance of endorsements? Because I think this is really important for people to understand. The way the voters, a majority of voters will vote is on endorsements. so adaa haysid xisbiga dimuqraadka anay doorsadeen aniga bas baa qof Soomaali ah oo hadda u tartamtay ala endorse gareeyay midda kale the Westerville Education Association waa the association ki oo macallimiinta dhan iskoolaha dhan xukumaan ayagan anay endorse gareeyaan bas so that's very important because no other candidate waxaas oo community-gana ka mid ah waxaas ma lagu sameynin everyone away apply gareeyaan sababta ay saas u sameynina waa sidii codkan inaga fara bixin so if you can kind of explain that
yes because you know the saa ula socotaan endorsementiga wax ay ciyaar maaha endorsementiga qofka hadduu helo waa qof lasoo baaray waxqabadkiisa lasoo fargareeyey lasoo ogaaday waxqabadkiisa si licnaha xisbiga qofka iskama siiyaan xisbiga endorsementna ayadaa wadata Anisa Liban siiyeen riiskay u siiyeen wax kale maaha because shaqaday soo qabatay waxa ay soo qabatay waana muhiim waaye maadaama qofka endorsementiga marka uu wato waxa anaga ku dagaalamaynay oo aan xoog u riixaynay oo aan ka shaqaynayn in Anisa Liban ay hesho endorsement waa wax kale maahan rekorkeeda iyo waqtiga ay soo qabatay iyo waxa ay soo qabataan kula dagaalamaynay xisbiga inay gabadhan heshwaana heshay haddana ayadaa fadhisa endorsement wax faa'iido u leeyahay waxa waaye dadka lagu endorse gareeyay oo dhan iyo adigu waxaa ka wada mid tihiin dadka in loo sheego qofkan waa qof qualificationkiisu fiican yahay qofkan soo screen gareena waaye xisbiga qofku soo fiiriyay waaye qof la soo test gareeyay waaye so waxaan ka codsanaynaa inaa qofkaan siisaan hadda codka endorsement wax fudud ma aha qof walba bala gareyn kara endorsementiga wax fudud ma aha sida dadku malayaan ma aha gabadhan waxay ku imaaday wax qabadkeeda iyo wax fiican ay qabatay iyo waxyaalaha ay rabto communitygeeda baahida meesha yaalay arkeen gaalada arkeen iyo waxa ay qabanayso in lagu taageero saas lagu taageeray muhiimadda ay tahay inaan ogaano muhiim endorsementigana waa arrinta ugu muhiimsan xisbiga uu qof siiyo uu ku taageero in dadka kale loo sheego qofkan anagaa soo endorse garaynay that's why it has endorsement slide ala dhiibaa oo xisbiga u aragtaa muhiimna waa ayadaana ku qoran
and especially dhibaatada hadda aan maraya iyo challengeska hadda aan hayo and they know kursiga inaan soo laabto waaye and it's so important for our community why as a community ma is caawin karno qofka meesha booska meesha ku fadhiyo why loo caawinaynin like if you can help explain that
yes because gabadha yarta u jeedaan dadkii anagoo aan ogeyn magaalada deganaa oo association Westerville association $2,000 ku siiyay endorsement way siiyeen qofna iskama siiyaan inay gabadhan soo laabatay rabaan waan u dagaalamayaan waxay ku weydiinaysaa as a community ahaan waxay leedahay anigu maxay ii caawin laadihiin as a community inay soo baxdaan oo garab istaagtaan oo arunta ila riixdaan dadkii cadaanka ah oo mainstreamka xataa ba association oo wanaani xataa taageeray oo lacagna siiyeen marka waa arrin aad iyo aad muhiim ah dadkan yar inaad dhageystaan muhiim waay because of waa su'aal meesha ku jirta inay community istaagaan lacagna siiyaan una istaagaan waxay leedahay association Westerville City School Association waa very powerful wax qabadkeeda ay arkeen lacagna way siiyeen waana endorse gareeyeen qofna iskama endorse gareeyeen easy inay soo laabatay rabaan marka annaga as a community waxaan naga rabnaa inaa qof walba inuu soo istaago uu gabadhan endorse gareeyo lacagna siiyo lana shaqeeyo volunteer u sameeyo waraaqaheeda u dhiibo oo aan dhahno gabadhan yarta ah inaa meesha ay noo joogtaan rabnaa as a community ahaan oo collectively haddaad deganeyn xataa Westerville waxaa ku deeqi kartaa maxaa la yidhaahdaa contribution haddaad xaafad kala degan tahay saaxiibii friends aa u wici kartaa contribution aad siin kartaa waa u volunteer gareyn kartaa keliya ma aha haddaad meesha deganeyn haddaad u codan karin waxaa u samayn kartaa inaad u imaadid oo u volunteer garaysid si carruurtan yaroo maanta Soomaalida ah oo magaalada hadda joogto ciyaal badan oo Soomaali oo dhibaataysanaa jooga say dadka yar ee dhibaatada aan u saarno ay u arkaan dad yar oo advocate u sameynaya oo u jeedaa maanta ciyaalka Soomaalida ahaa problem badan haysta overdose drug overdose issue badan haysta marka waxaan rabnaa dadkeena si u badbaadaan inaan gacmaha isqabsano oo dadka yar aan daba istaagno aan riixno gabadhan waxay naga mudan tahay inaan lacag siino inaan u volunteer gareyno inaan u shaqeyno inuu qof walba Soomaali mas'uul waxa ka saaran inaan haddaad deganeen waxa u sameyn kartaa volunteer lacagna waa u siin kartaa active blue ay leedahay Anisa Liban for Westerville School gala waa u codeyn kartaan waxaad siin kartaan waxa la yiraahdo contribution volunteer sameyn kartaan albaabada u garaaci kartaan marka waa muhiimna waaye inaan qofka noo jooga meesha because cadaanka hadda meesha jooga ma marna raam badidooda macnaha anaga hadda waxaan leenahay fadlan nala caawiya nala riixa marka dadka Soomaali ahaan waxay idin weydiisay su'aasha waa weli xasuusnaada waxay leedahay as aniga gabar yaraan ahay waa idin baahanahay inay garab istaagtaan u baahanahay inaad daba istaagtaan oo gabadhan riixdaan oo u duceyno in ilaahay ku xafido meeshaan community ku ilaaliyo inaan taageernaan laga rabaa marka insha allahu tacaala please vote for Anisa Liban Westerville City Schools Soomaali haddaan nahay fadlan divisionka iyo hala iska ilaaliyo gabadhaan meesha ayadaa joogta wareerka community laga hayna hala joojiyo gabadhaan ayadaa already meesha fadhisa runta cadaalada ilaahay nagu bahgalay dadkuna waxaa fiican inay ka cadaalad faraan gabadhaan kursiga ayadaa fadhisa inaan ku taageerana muhiim waaye inaan ku riixnana muhiim waaye in waxa la shukur gargayna waxaan diidanahay waxaana qof walba oo Soomaali ah oo yar qabana inaan taageerno anigu ahaan burhaan ahaan ood waxaan u qaatay dadka yaryar inaan la taageero aan la riixo hadda yaryar waxaa jira group work shaqeynaayo maxamed yare oo riixoynaa gabdho yar oo badan imaan doono so insha Allah tacaala waxaan dadkaan inay u noqdaan community indo dadka yar badbaadiya because aan ula socotaan generationkan hadda yar waa generation u baahan inaan anaga aan garab istaagno aan riixno qof walbana waxaa laga rabaa Anisa Liban inaan usoo baxnaan oo isu istaagtaan oo u volunteer gareysaan oo board election ka imaadaan maalmaha Super Tuesday-da bisha afarteeda meelo badan laga codeeyna volunteer naas qortaan oo imaadaan oo waraaqaha u dhiibtaan time aad siisaan muhiim waaye ogaada caruurtiina ya ilmaha dhashaan kuwa dhali doontaan beri waa ka benefit garanayaan taasaana muhiima waxbarashadana waa wax muhiima in qofka ilaahay suu ku sheegay quraanka waxbarashadu waa nolosha bini'aadanka waxyaalaha ugu horeeya waaye marka inaan gabadhaana taageerno garab istaagna muhiim waaye community ahaana gacmaha inaan isqabsano oo dadkan yar aan riixno muhiim waaye dadkan waa dadkii indhaha u noqon lahaa communitygana maanta waxba ha shukurkood garaynin waxba ha dhihin bahalki gabadhaan already meesha fadhisaa she's already seat adaa fadhis she's a vice president of Westerville City Schools runtan waxaa fiican runta in dadka loo sheegaa muhiimadda ay tahay Soomaalida inay ogaadaan muhiim waaye qof hadduu meel fadhiyo uu meel joogo hadduu wax noo qaban waayo uu beri wax qaban waayo we have a question about laakiin qof hadda rabo oo lagu haysto kuraasti oo appointee ku jooga oo hadda meesha jooga oo caddaan ay ku haysta inaan anaga iru riixin inuu noqonaa loo baahan yahay divisionka Soomaalida in la yareeyo muhiim waaye dadka Soomaalida ka shaqeynaya divisionkoodana waa u dugaynaa fadlan divisionka inaa iska ilaalisaan muhiim waaye divide inaa community qaybisaan muhiim waaye dadka yar wax qabanaya taageera qofkii wax noo qaban waayo waa tuurayna ballan waxaan ku qaadnay inaan ka tuurno kuraasta qofka dadka Soomaalida ah oo Soomaalida ku baaba'do haddii wax la qaban waayo we take village inaan bedelno insha Allah taala marka waxaan rabnaa Anisa vote for Westerville City Schools insha Allah taala ilaahana waxaan u duceeyaa gabadhaan yarta ah jazakallahu khair dadkii volunteer dhiibay dadkii wax bixiyay waan u mahadnaqaynaa insha Allah taala gabadhaan yarta inuu soo laabataan rabnaa insha Allah taala we door knock wala sameeyna insha Allah taala aniga aan la hadlayo weekend will door knock with her insha Allah taala
Thank you so much, Adair. And then any family, mashallah, or عاونوا باهن, or they just want to talk or have any questions, مروربا, حفيزك وإي إيمان كرتين وإي صوعي كرتين. So all the information Adair برهان وانودي بينا إن شاء الله that way we need to be كراه. I'm here to help.
Inshallah ta'ala, we united, we're together, inshallah ta'ala. We wanted the young generation in England to step up. Inshallah ta'ala, we're building dad yaro oo leadership oo yaro Anisa ay kamid yihiin Ahmed yaro oo caawanaya kamid yahay dad badan oo yar inay noqdaan community indhahooda oo noqdaan ay beri noqdaan dadka beri dadka la liftigaray inshallah ta'ala. Ilaahay ha xafido waa u duceynaa gabadha yarta inshallah ta'ala. May Allah make easy this road and being elected inshallah ta'ala and see Anisa oo kursiga noo fadhisa u duceey inshallah duceeyada ka baahan tahay make dua for her inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khair and thank you ma santihiin inshallah ta'ala. وعليكم السلام يا جزاك الله خير.
جزاك الله خير. Thank you so much.